Hi everyone, thank you so much for tuning into our channel. So today we're going to be washing Gabby's hair, and you can see it's pretty matted up from the week before. We usually like to wash it once a week, so it gets pretty tangled throughout the weekdays. And these are the products that we use. And this is Gabby before her shower. So I like to wash her hair in the shower. That's where I prefer to wash it, but this video is a couple months old, so we were washing it into the tub. I like to get her hair super wet first and make sure it's saturated with water completely. That's the hardest part. Well, it's easier in the shower for me. But I like to use the Maui shampoo, and this one, it says it has no sulfates. So I like it. I mainly use it for the smell. I know that sulfates are not the best for curly hair, but I really don't mind. It just depends on what we have on hand and what I feel like using. For her hair, this shampoo is done really well. I rarely shampoo it. Maybe out of the 4 times we wash it a month, then I would like to say I'd probably use it twice. But it does a really good job of lathering up. If you've ever used a sulfate-free shampoo, sometimes you can tell that it doesn't lather as much. And I love the way this lathers, and I love the smell. And it does a really good job of getting the scalp clean. So as you can see, I only shampoo the roots of her hair closest to her scalp. And then I go ahead and I rinse that out, because while you're rinsing it out, it will run down the rest of her hair. So, and I find that if I shampoo the entire length of her hair, it just gets way too dry and tangled up even more. So it makes it a lot harder to detangle. So, and I love that little cup thing. It's a baby washing cup, but I absolutely love it for washing her hair. Any cup will do. And here she is trying to stick her head under the faucet so that she gets all the shampoo out. She loves doing it by herself. So here is her hair freshly shampooed, and what I like to do is go in with a deep conditioner. So sorry, I had a face mask on, but I'm using the Botanika deep conditioning mask. I have used a few deep conditioners. Another one that we really like is the Aussie brand, but the Botanika deep conditioner, it leaves her hair so soft. It is unreal. So it is about $11, $12, but it is so worth it. So I like to go in with my hands first and try to finger detangle as much as possible. I do a few different detangling sessions, but after shampooing, I do like to go in with my hands while it's still wet, and I like to detangle with my fingers as much as possible. And doing it slowly with my fingers versus a comb, it helps me feel where the knots are versus just the comb ripping through the hair. She is very tender-headed, extremely tender-headed. So it helps me to just separate them a little bit more gentler. And as you can see, there are a lot of knots. I like to mainly get it into 2 sections. 4 sections are ideal, but I like 2 so I can have some sort of separation in the hair. And you can see how thick the deep conditioner is. It is not only thick, but it doesn't leave the hair dry. I'm not sure if anyone else has ever had a deep conditioner that seems like it's moisturizing in the jar, but then once you put it on your hair, it gets kind of like stiff. But this one is like, it melts in like butter, and your hair is silky soft afterwards. I love it. It also smells really good. But we picked ours up at Target, and I'm so sad ever since we moved that we don't have it here. We live in Puerto Rico now, so we don't have it on the island, but I'm hoping I can do a Target order or get someone to send some to us soon. So here is me putting in the rest of the deep conditioner, and you can see that back section is the worst. She has pretty uniform curls all around her hair. I would say like a 3B, 3C mix, but in the back section, I guess where her hair rubs against her clothes or like the back of the ponytails, it definitely gets more matted up. It has the most shrinkage and it gets drier. So she does like to sit through the deep conditioner. She gets bored, as you can see. But I don't really focus on separating it too much when it's time to deep condition. I try to get a lot on the top and a lot on the bottom to ensure that most of it is covered. I focus a lot on the ends because that is the part that gets the driest. And the insides, if that makes any sense. So I take the deep conditioner, I run it all through, and then I go over it a couple more times, gather it all up. I pretty much just feel out the sections that feel the driest, and that's where I put the most deep conditioner. I could easily use the entire jar in one deep conditioning session, and I think if her hair was really, really bad one day, then I would do that, but I like to save as much as I can. And you don't need a lot to have it be effective. It's amazing. I have tried some other masks. I've looked for another mask. So I don't know. This is our miracle product. And like the true Hispanic I am, we are going to use a bag to deep condition because that's what we have available. So I put it in a bag and I tie it up in like a loose bun. Sometimes I'll let her sleep with it. If the hair is really tangled, we'll go a day while she runs around and the heat generated from her scalp helps soften it. But this time we're just going to sit for a little bit and then we're going to rinse that out, maybe like 20 minutes. So this is what her hair looks like after we have deep conditioned it and rinsed out the conditioner. And ideally I like to style her hair as soon as she comes out of the bath or the shower, but this case we slacked a little bit and let it dry. You can see how dry it is right now. So it is very soft, extremely soft. But it has gotten pretty frizzy and we need to fix that. She's crazy. So I guess she's looking out the window. My child is so special. So this is her hair up close and you can see it is drier, but the curls are defined and soft. She's showing off her hair. So I'm using a 360 sprayer. I want to say that I got it from Sally's a few years ago, but I'm pretty sure that you can find them like on Amazon or anything. The spray comes out more of like a fine mist rather than, you know what I mean. So I prefer this one because it seems like it saturates the hair even more instead of just little sections. And she is in charge of holding the ligas, the hair ties, while I separate it. So what I like to do when I am styling her hair, I hardly ever style it into a style like braids or twist or anything like that. 99% of the time I will leave it out to air dry. So I separate it into two halves and then I separate each one of those halves into two sections. So this part is pretty easy, and again, I like to use my fingers versus a comb. If I'm going for a specific style, then I will attempt to use a comb just for the parting. But initially, I just like to feel it out with my fingers. I get a much better result, and she doesn't cry when I do that. So I like to put up these certain sections. I love working on the back first because that's the part that gets the driest. And even though the front of her hair is the same curl pattern as the back of her hair, the front is so much easier to manage and comb through. So I like to knock out the back first. So this time it wasn't too bad, but sometimes it is a struggle getting through the entire back of that hair. So even that would be a cute hairstyle with just the buns and the back out, but we still need to style it. As much as it is soft and it's nice, I would love to be able to just leave it like that, like a true wash and go with no product, but it would be a complete disaster. So as you can see, she's holding a scrunchie. And a little bit off topic, we prefer scrunchies so much more than your regular hair ties. We find that the scrunchies don't really break off her hair as much. We had a problem in the past with using scrunchies for a ponytail, or using the regular hair ties for ponytails, and around her edges you could see that her hair was thinning out a bit. So we switched to scrunchies and haven't had any issues since, and they don't pull on the hair as much. So I highly recommend switching if you have curly hair, or if you just have a lot of hair and it gets pretty heavy. I have no clue what she's doing. So this is me separating the one section. I'm going to spray it down with the 360 sprayer, and you want to make sure that you start with soaking wet hair. Ideally, you would love to start like fresh out of the shower or fresh out of the bathtub, but using the sprayer will work just as well. So I go in with the sprayer, spray down the entire section, and then I go in with the Botanika, the light leave-in conditioner. They have the lighter leave-in conditioner, and then they have a heavy deep conditioner, well, heavy leave-in cream. I had not used the heavier leave-in cream. I believe it's thicker, and I want to try that one, but you haven't yet. This one, it glides like silk. It has so much slip, and it doesn't feel really silicone-y, I guess. That's the only way I can describe it. A lot of leave-in conditioners, I find, feel more like they're stripping the hair instead of moisturizing the hair, but this one actually feels like it is getting into the hair and it is quenching what your hair needs. It is so smooth, and it feels literally like butter once you rub it in. So I don't use a ton. I like to initially, after it's sprayed down, so I put some in my hand and then I run it through the entire section. Maybe I do, maybe I don't, not really sure. I think that I was recording a Instagram story about her hair. So actually, if you go on my Instagram, I'll have that link below. I have an entire highlight dedicated to her hair and what I use in her hair and how I do her hair. Pretty much the same video, but a little quicker version. So I like to overall rub that deep conditioner in, or the leave-in conditioner, I'm sorry, in her hair. And if it's not wet enough, I will spray it again with water. But of course, I have to, record my Instagram stories while she sits there. The entire process of doing her hair does not take a very long time. It just depends on how detailed I want to be with detangling. If I am doing her hair for the once a week wash, then I will take a little bit more time because I know that it has to last the entire week. But if I am just washing it to get it out the way, or if it's like a midday quick wash, a midweek quick wash, then I'll slack a little bit and use less product and not really go in depth with detangling. So I like to make sure that the entire time the hair is soaking wet, so I sprayed it down with some more water. And in that quadrant, in that section, I like to break it down even more as much as possible with my fingers, because using the comb on her hair in the big section is just a disaster. So I'm going in with a little bit more product on each little section, and I'm making sure I get that all the way through. So I'm going in with this curly hair detangling comb. I believe I got it from Walmart, I want to say a couple years ago. It was just a curly hair in shower detangling comb. The teeth on it are alternating, they're not in one row. So if you look up like any wide tooth comb or shower comb or curly hair comb, I'm sure you can find it. I like it sometimes, but it's not my first choice. Now I am going in, after I comb it out as much as possible, I am going in with my wet brush, and I love the wet brush. It is and has been the best thing that we have found for her hair. So I'm starting at the bottom. I make sure that that is tangle free, and then I make my way up to the top, and I like to grab her hair in the middle or away from her scalp, wherever I'm combing, so that I'm not pulling on her hair as much, because like I said, she is very tender-headed. So I might go a little heavy on the products, but I like to make sure that every single little section, especially if we're going to make it last a week, is covered in product. So I go in with the water, I go in with the leave-in conditioner, and then I comb out each section. And as you can see, the curls do a pretty good job at clumping up on their own, so I don't need to do any finger curls. Although I am pretty curious to see what it would look like if I was to finger curl her whole head. But for now, our method seems to be doing pretty well. I don't know if she was scolding me for something or what. But as you can see, the wet brush glides through her hair. I absolutely love it, and it does not tangle. I know a lot of curly hair girls recommend the Denman brush, and we tried the Denman brush, but it was not working for us. I think the teeth were too stiff, or it just wasn't working. So what I like about the wet brush is the bristles are flexible, so even if there is a tangle, the bristles bend and then glide over the tangle rather than trying to rip through it. And at that point, I can use the comb, or I can use my fingers, and I can separate it even more instead of just trying to rip these tangles out, because that would be a disaster. And another tip for using the wet brush, instead of using the brush sideways, I might have to do a video representation of this. Instead of using it sideways like a regular hairbrush, you can turn it vertically and use it that way first to get out most of the tangles, and then go in sideways with the brush. And that makes it easier. I'm not sure the science behind it, but it makes it so much easier. So I'm going in with that, spraying it again, and going in with more leave-in conditioner, making sure I get that all the way through, and then distributing that with the comb and the brush. You can see how that product just makes her hair so moisturized and super shiny. So after I go in with the leave-in conditioner, I like to use the Botanika protector gel. And this gel is nice. I really do like it. It doesn't make the hair crunchy or hard or flaky. But gels are, there's a bigger option. There are more options for gels, I guess. So while I do love this gel, I love the entire line, but I can also find other gels that do well too. So I'm not tied specifically to this gel. But I know a lot of girls don't prefer gel because it makes their hair crunchy. But I personally, for her and for myself, I love gel. And it just works for us. It helps keep her hair shape, and it helps keep the curls defined all week long. So here I am spraying it again, and I'm just going to continue the same process all throughout her head. So here I am starting on one of the front sections. I finished the back. And again, I'm going to do the same process. Just spray it down, leave-in conditioner, then gel. You can already see the front section is so much easier to deal with. It smooths out a lot quicker than the back. So I typically use less product on the front section. And I like to keep the middle part. So leave-in conditioner, she's watching a movie on my phone. And with the front, because it is so easy to comb out, I know I'm not supposed to, but sometimes I just start straight from the root and work the tangles down. And even just with that comb before the wet brush, before the gel or anything, it gets so much easier, or it gets so much smoother, I'm sorry. So it looks like I'm being pretty rough, but I'm really not. So there I am with the wet brush. It just glides on through, and you can see how smooth it is with just the leave-in conditioner. I'm sure I could leave it with just a leave-in and not do gel, but if I want that hold, then I follow up with the gel. I like to put it near her scalp, get it as close as possible to her roots so that those stay defined and detangled as well. I have a really big problem with her hair, and if I don't put enough product at the roots get so matted, and the rest of it is pretty easy to detangle, but the roots sometimes it is just I don't know. I have to be more mindful and make sure that I really get that product in there. So it looks like I'm being really rough again, but I'm not. And she'll let me know if I am causing discomfort or pain, and then I will stop. So the whole process, it takes less than an hour. It can take as long as I would like it to. And when her hair's straight, it is pretty close to her knees. So her hair is pretty long, and the shrinkage is minimal, I would say, especially with these products. If I don't put any holding product, like any gel in it, then it does shrink up a lot more. But when I have another gel that I liked was I want to say Miss Jessie's flaxseed gel. I think it's the elongating gel. I can't remember. But that one is pretty good too, and it makes the curls pop without shrinking, and it keeps that shape. So with product, her hair looks a lot more like a 3A, 3B, but without product, it's definitely more of like a 3B, 3C pattern. And I'm already done with that first top section, and here I am working on the other top section. But she knows that when we get to the top, she is almost done, and she is itching to get up and go. As much as she doesn't like getting her hair done, I don't think any little girl does, but she doesn't really mind sitting there once a week or more if we're doing things like swimming or going to the beach, or in the summertime in general. It just requires a lot more hair washing. So we do straighten it. Well, in the past, when we lived in Maryland, we would straighten it for the winter months, like once or twice. But ever since we moved, I'm not sure how that's going to work, because it's just entirely too hot year round to straighten her hair. So I guess we'll leave it curly, which is not a problem. It's beautiful and we love it. So I do not use any diffusers or dryers or anything special, or fans or anything, when we are drying her hair. I love to wash her hair early in the day. If it's too late, I won't do it, because we air dry completely, 100%. And then at night, we sleep with a satin bonnet. I don't use any hair ties. She put it in a bun. I kind of just loosely fold it into a pineapple with my hand, and then we put the bonnet over it. But you want to make sure that if you're doing this method, that your hair is completely dry. Otherwise, it leaves like a really funny shape. It molds into a weird pattern. But it doesn't take too long to dry completely, just a few hours. And it goes by pretty quick if she's running around outside. So these are some pictures of her hair completely dry, and like day 2, day 3, and day 4 hair. So if you like this video, please like, subscribe, and thank you so much for watching. Please let me know if you have any questions. Alright, bye!